Hi there, my name's Val,
My name's Eddie.
and you're listening to LPs in a Pod.
Today we're going to be reviewing The Future Bites, which is Stephen Wilson's sixth studio album.
But first, I think let's talk about why we're starting this podcast.
Let's.
LPs in a Pod is a podcast for all your music needs. We are going to be talking about just general music chat. We're going to be doing album reviews. We're going to be doing interviews, anything to do with music. Why did we start this podcast, though, Ed?
Because we just love talking about music.
There's 2 a.m. chats after a few beers, just talking about all the albums we love.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we just love music. We want to bring that to you. We want to talk to you guys about it. But I think let's start with this review. So I have one of the deluxe editions for Stephen Wilson, The Future Bites. How many have you got?
I've got a couple. I'm not going to show them off right now because I can't be bothered. But
Which editions have you got there?
I've got the UK tour press. I've got the red press. I've got the OB strip press, and I've also got the deluxe edition box set, which cost me about an arm and a leg. And
an arm and a leg.
But it's very nice. Lots of deluxe edition bonus material and all the trimmings.
Why do you think we started on this album, though, dude? I know how much I love it, but what do you reckon?
Oh, it's a lot of people are very split on this album, especially the die-hard fans of Stephen Wilson who have been around since the 90s for all the projects like No Man and Porcupine Tree. I think he's well renowned for being the prog king, and this definitely takes things away from prog, but it's still a progress for him musically, in my personal opinion.
This is, fast becoming my favorite album. And I'm glad that we've really started on it, actually, because I think it's really accessible. Like, my partner isn't really into Stephen Wilson or Porcupine Tree, but when I put this album on, got the vinyl, it was the kind of album, it was the first Stephen Wilson album that she went off to work and came back and went, I listened to that album, by the way, and I think it's really fucking awesome.
I definitely prefer it to his previous album, To the Bone, and I really like that album as well, which also goes in a pop direction. But I think this one goes much further in terms of it being very different from his previous catalogue of music.
For sure. So, for those of you who don't know Stephen Wilson has been involved in many projects, very well known for Porcupine Tree, has been involved with No Man, Blackfield, and many other very well-known prog artists. His sixth studio album, The Future Bites, has been described as an album that deals with two recurring themes of Wilson's musical output, identity and technology, with a press release noting that it picks apart our 21st century utopia, whilst also allowing for moments of personal growth and optimism. It was also called a less bleak vision of an approaching dystopia, more of a curious reading of the here and now. And the lead single, Personal Shopper, was noted to expand on the electronic elements of Wilson's previous work, fully diving into dance and neo-disco, while somehow keeping a rock edge. Just from watching the interviews, actually, I noticed that he was talking about how his previous solo records have been like an homage to the past, like past influences, past records. But he wanted to make a record that basically would only exist in the now, is very prevalent to the things that we're experiencing now, and how, pop is very timeless, but he wanted to make a record that was very much reflected the times that we're in at the moment in 2020 or 2021.
I definitely think sorry, you go.
No, dude, go on.
I say definitely it reflects his struggles with the guitar, in the fact that he thinks he's done everything that he can possibly do with it, and I think it maybe bores him now. And I think the electronics, synthesizers, and piano, it to him feels more like a wider canvas for him to finally jump into and feel more enthusiastic about making music again.
I think it's one of those things, isn't it? When you come onto a point where you feel like you've mastered something, you want to move on to something else and move on to something that is a little bit new. Um, and I think he's definitely done that with this album.
Yeah, I don't think he just wants to be seen as the guitarist, which he kind of is like prolific for being, really.
Yeah. Um, Before we do a little bit of a deep dive into track by track, I want to talk about the mixing of this album. He is very well known for his 5.1 mixers. Dolby Atmos is what he mixed this album in. And this shit is outstanding to me. It's insane.
It's stuff you
Can
see
you
in it.
guess? Can you guess how many speakers are in a Dolby Atmos setup?
I dread to think. I imagine it's similar to the cinema experience. When you go into a cinema, there's all these speakers around you, which you completely take for granted because you're so used to it in a cinematic sense of the thing, but not for music.
It's even better. It's even better. It's 7.1.4. So to illustrate, you know how I said you have one in front of you to the left, one to the right, one to the right behind you, one to the right to the left of you. You have one to the left of you directly there, one to the right of you directly there, and you have the central point and the sub. Then you have four speakers above you, and that's so that you can mix not only horizontally but vertically. That's a layman's description of this, but he said how the first time he experienced one was when he went to Abbey Road and he heard a mix of the Beatles album Abbey Road in Dolby Atmos. Decided to get his home studio in this, but I want to hear this album in Dolby Atmos.
Oh yeah.
It seems like the crown jewel of mixing, you know.
Well, it sounds like the VR experience of music, like
Yeah,
what the
exactly.
headset is doing for like gaming and things like that. I think this is the new experience for deluxe musical experiences. Definitely gives stereo a run for its money.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to hear like about this album. Let's just go into a track by track dive in.
Right, yeah.
First track is Unself. What do you reckon?
I love it. I think it's a great introduction to the album. It feels like you're being pulled into this world, almost like down the rabbit hole of the future bites. And I think it's got a really kind of eerie feel to it. I love the kind of almost like space like quality to it, especially with the reverberation, the rough kind of audio tech what's the word? Texture.
It's very spacey and it's eerie to a certain extent, and I love this track because it almost kind of sets you up for the album. Very dreamy, very spacey, and then I think I said to you before about how a little bit of a confession, but for the first month that I heard this album after it was released, I was just listening to it on speakers. Not very good speakers, sadly. But I was on the train to London. I put it in my headphones for the first time. And there's that little bit where you just hear the boom. And I was like, ooh, that sounds good. And then at the end, I love how it kind of all fades out to that single volume, single vocal where he sings "And Love Is Hell." And there's that little pause and then boom into the next track.
Yeah, straight to self.
Good setup for the rest of the album. And that's what I like as well. This is Unself, and then Self comes in. And this track is one of my favorite tracks on the album. Very much talking about how we, you know, in the age of social media, we're all very interested in ourselves. We're always looking inwards. And I think the lyric self sees a billion stars, but still can only self-regard. It very much sums up that social media age that we're all in right now.
Well, yeah, I suppose also it's like the unrealistic goals of measuring oneself against everyone else at the same time as well. There's almost like a needless competition when there never was before, not to this kind of magnitude of everyone being available to show off themselves or their new self.
Yeah. And I think for me as well, it kind of reflects a lot of the way you are on social media is not necessarily the way that you are in person. I think it speaks a lot to that sort of thing. Plus, to be quite honest, I really love the music video because for anyone who hasn't seen the music video, it utilizes deepfake technology, where if you deepfake someone correctly, you would never know that that is not that person. The face is planted on that person perfectly. And I quite love the bit where there's a lyric where it says "entertain like a fucking clown," and Donald Trump's face is on Steven Wilson. It's that little kind of slight middle finger up to, for me anyway.
I'd love to know who was like how they decided which faces they were going to go with, because I noticed they did a lot of actors like Robert Downey Jr., Brad Pitt, Scarlett Johansson
was in there. Tom Cruise, Scarlett Johansson. Yeah,
I was hoping the whole Avengers would have come up, but I doubt. I don't even know who plays Hawkeye. I always forget his name.
Jeremy Renner.
Could be
Jeremy Renner. It is Jeremy.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, I don't think he was going to be coming up, but I thought
I can't imagine Steven Wilson as a Hulk though.
I'm sure he can be mean and green when he wants to. But yeah, it was interesting.
Sorry, go on.
It was just interesting who they picked.
Yeah,
and also he was David Bowie. I think that was a great ending to the video.
I did love that nod towards the end where he because we lost David Bowie a few years ago. I did love that little nod and I mean, to me it feels like a nod.
Oh yeah. He loved Bowie. His dog's called Bowie, and actually
really?
Yeah. He's thanked in the notes. Yeah, Bowie's got an Instagram account.
No way.
He's a very cute
I'm gonna follow that in a moment.
Yeah, you do that.
I think it's a good time to actually talk about a lot of the imagery of the album, actually, because I think the Future Bites deals with a lot of the way it's presented is very much, I feel, how it's like things like Apple products are presented. It's like it's almost cultish. Like it's all very uniform. It's kind of sexy. Like you want to buy Apple, like you want to buy this product, and you buy into that whole world. Like, I think you were talking about what was the brand?
Supreme. Supreme's a great person at just slapping a label onto a brick. That was one of the things they were most well known for, and then selling it for a stupid amount, and then it going even more after the resale. So all the scalpers were selling them for twice, 3 times, even 4 times the price that it was initially.
Yeah, it's like they buy you get a t-shirt for a pittance and then put a logo on it and sell it for $300.
And also have a queue that goes on for a mile for the opening day of this new strain of clothing.
And I mean that's what a lot of this album deals with, isn't it? It's I mean, just to quote an interview that I saw with Steve, and he was talking about how, it used to be that politicians would control the lives of people, that would set the narrative, but these days that narrative and that control is set by shopping algorithms and Facebook algorithms and the sort of things that people have views skewed by algorithms set by social media companies. And
your data means a lot to these people.
Oh hell yeah! I mean, I work in data, so I know the level of which people can drill down into how they can analyze you,
and only just scratching the surface in that technology. And I'm sure investing a lot of money to make it even more efficient.
I mean, scratching the surface, I would disagree with. A lot of that stuff is very scary. Like you will be surprised. But I think that's what when Stephen talks about how it's very much an album for the now, it very much reflects the times that we're in. A lot of our decisions, a lot of what we believe, a lot of what we buy is influenced by algorithms that can very much. I mean, if you could get a printout of like a personality test printout, they can print that out, and it's very scary how they
Oh
can
yeah.
dictate that
Like
and
how
influence that.
it's like how people think their phones are listening to us because we'll have a conversation and we'll see adverts about it. And it's clearly not the case. It's just they're so good at reading the patterns that you feed into the algorithm that through that they can actually just predict what you're thinking or in a way,
Yeah.
which is far creepier than just hearing you say, I like this product, therefore I will see this advert. They know you better than you do in a way.
Yeah. And actually, if Stephen's goal is to make an album that is very much of the now, I think he's absolutely aced it in that respect. I think a lot of the songs on this album talk about these topics in that way and very much reflect it. I think it's a good time to move on to King Ghost, actually.
All right, okay.
I'll admit, I don't really, I can't really fathom what this song is about for me. What I do know is that it's so spacey, and I love the vocal work.
Oh yeah.
Track.
Well, it's the most electronic on the album because there's 0 guitars on it, which I think is a big step for Wilson in his comfort zone, or big step out of his comfort zone, as it were. I was reminded of songs like Bjork's Yoga. Bjork's a great person for exploring electronic sound, especially electronic beats and things like that. And I definitely think that song definitely came to mind when listening to it. Even Tom York, his last album, or his solo album, Anima, uses electronics in provoking this dream kind of landscape. The song I am a very rude person is a great example in comparing the two. I definitely think synths and stuff can really convey strange worlds, and it's been doing it for years, but I think there's a new kind of like energy in terms of electronics that can create these worlds and inner feelings. And I definitely think this song sounds like an inner monologue of someone very broken and trying to gain some control of themselves back. And I suppose ghosts in a way can be seen as your own past and regrets and trying to pull yourself up and face another day, which can be very emotional.
And you know what? I love that lyric in this where after the middle bit where you kind of hear the robotic voice listing a number of words, it's the bit where he says, and you see that's what I'm talking about. You can wash away the dirt, but you can't wash away the failure. And it's the way, there's just a way that he says the word failure. It's very cathartic. And I don't know if that might be the right word to use, but it's just that bit of the song. It's just, I can't put it into words. This song takes me on a journey. I don't necessarily know what that journey is, and I don't necessarily know what it means, but I love it.
I do love his vocals. Those high pitched kind of melodic, almost like
he's doing a lot of that on this album as well.
This one in particular, there's some really high hitting notes. He's really pushing his vocals, even if they are put for a bit of reverb. There's still, you need to have a bit of a vocal range to hit those notes.
Oh yeah, for sure. I really, I've been excited for this part since we started recording. 12 Things I Forgot, the next track. This is my absolute favorite.
Oh yeah, it's
this album.
It's definitely the radio hit of the album.
It is, but you know what? I don't know. Like if I put the whole album, if I put it on the turntable, it's almost like the first 3 tracks of the album. I love them and they're great, but I'm looking forward to this track coming up because every time it comes up, I cannot switch it off. I will put it on repeat if I need to. I will move the needle back. I love 12 Things I Forgot. Personally, I relate a lot to the lyrics. It's like we've talked about masking and things like that before. I can't quite pinpoint why I love it, but it's very sentimental to me. It strikes a chord, and I guess to someone who hasn't listened to Steve Wilson before, they can listen to it and see it as a nice, just poppy song, like you say, like a radio friendly
Oh
sort of
yeah.
song.
But the lyricism is fantastic. The line, "There's so many
Yeah,
things I pretend to you I'm not."
I
I think
love
it's
that.
yeah, it's
I love that.
you could say that in a number of ways, but I think that just does it so well that you immediately
Mm.
understand it without it being something you've already heard before. I think it's wonderfully phrased.
And what's the you know what? Like, you'll have to forgive me. I'm gonna bring it up now. There's this one lyric because it kind of to me sets out initially like a bit of a grumpy old man kind of vibe, but only lyrically, obviously.
Oh, about
But it's like now I just sit in the corner complaining, making out things were best in the 80s. And I mean, I know we're very much 90s kids, but like I mean, my partner's the early 20s, I'm 31. And I'm always going, oh, it's better when I was a kid and all this and the other.
yeah.
And he's like, I definitely relate to that.
I know. I find myself reminiscing about Virgin Megastore and things like that,
Oh, mate, yeah,
and
yeah.
browsing music with a mate and going, "Oh, have you heard this?" and things like that. The
Oh
click,
man,
the clacking of CDs, and dreaming about the vinyl section because back then that was
well, do you
unaffordable.
remember when? Yeah, to anyone who's listening, like, I mean, we're both from Sheffield. I mean, I live in Brighton now. You're still in Sheffield, Ed. But
Still a northerner.
record collector. Like, we used to go into record collector and just like dive through loads of vinyl, and
Yeah,
it's like, oh, mate, like, you know,
my entire teenage years were spent there.
oh, definitely. Um, you know, I just this is my favorite song on the album. I am
Oh, it's
absolutely
fantastic.
in love with
It
it.
does remind me of his solo project Blackfield. It does feel like it would go happily in that kind of project. And
Yeah,
yeah, like something like very similar to a song like Summer from their 2004 debut album. In terms of like the song being led by an acoustic guitar in terms of its
yeah,
melody and things like that.
yeah.
It's great. I think its strength is in its simplicity in a way.
For sure. I actually, I know we talked about this before because obviously I got into Stephen Wilson through Porcupine Tree, and I mean, being a drummer, like Gavin Harrison is like God. But what I love about Stephen Wilson's later stuff is it's the simplicity of the drums. Like, you know, I think any musician, we love listening to really complicated and complex stuff and we go, oh, that's amazing. But you know what? Sometimes it's nice to be able to just ignore the drums a little bit and just have a simple, well, not ignore the drums. That's the wrong way to say it, but just have a nice, simple beat that is played well, so you can concentrate on all of the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, Michael Spearman's the drummer for this, who I don't know of prior to this album.
I'd not heard of him before, but I'd definitely have to check him out. You know, sometimes some of the good drummers are the guys who just play a simple beat, absolutely super solid on the point, and it leaves that breathing room for the rest of the song. And I think that's one of the things I'm enjoying about Stephen's, certainly this album and some of To the Bone, his last album. So let's talk Eminent Sleaze.
Yes, let's talk about it.
This is a song you can fuck to. It's so sexy.
Well, it's got a very sexy bass line, brought to you by Nick Beggs.
Absolutely. I love Nick Beggs. Nick Beggs is the bass player and Chapman Stick player that has played with Stephen for a while. I love the concept of this song, and I love how sexy it is. That bass line, it's almost got a little bit of a disco feel, so you kind of got that dung, 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 like it's kind of like ploddy, and then it comes in with the chorus with the bum 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 bum, like
which is
ups the ante.
Everyone's compared it to David Essex's Rock On. From that,
Which one's that?
It's from his title track. Title. It's a title track for his album that came out in 1973. And if you listen to it, there's definitely the influence of that bass and drum kind of introduction.
Really?
And yeah, It's once you hear it, you can't dissociate them from the two.
See, my mum was a big David Essex fan, but I can't remember that song. I'll have to listen
You'll
to
you'll
it.
know it when you hear it, but yeah, if you, I recommend listening to it because it's a great thing to like. It's great when you hear his influences kind of like obvious like that.
Yeah. I love I love the concept behind this as well. It's it's the sleaze, right? It's the CEO, the kind of trendy, kind of really good looking sort of guy who like it's like he can schmooze you,
Yeah.
but you're a means to the end. Like he's using you for his own means.
It definitely feels like this
And
could be Jeff Bezos's inner monologue in a way.
yeah, and like in the video it's great 'cause, I mean, spoiler alert, but at the end of the video where he's like he's the limited edition human because he's one of one, everyone else is extinct, and he's proud of that, and he really embodies that and loves that idea.
I've fulfilled my value. I am numero uno.
Yeah, exactly. I love this song. And also like when that bass line comes in with the dun 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 dun, like you can't help but just like rock back and forth, like, oh, this is good. And also the vocal work in this, I really love the vocal work.
Oh yeah, definitely. You get like the Talking Heads kind of vibes in terms of backing vocalists. I also got I know he referenced them before, but XTC is another group that he loves to take influence from. So I'm thinking of the track called Making Plans for Nigel has that kind of energy in terms of the drums and things like that.
I haven't heard it, but you need to send it to me.
Even like I think the guitar solo sounds like something that could have been from like Prince's Purple Rain.
Yeah, Prince.
But it's got
Prince,
a lot more
Prince.
distortion, but it's still that mad guitar flair that Prince used to love to celebrate his like final choruses with at the end of the songs as a big crescendo.
I know he released this way before the album came out, and when I heard it, the moment the guitar solo comes at the end, it was like, that's Prince. And I know Stephen Wilson is a huge fan of Prince, and it's great to hear. Like, I know he did the cover of Sign of the Times,
which is an amazing cover.
and when you hear like towards the end of the song, like it's just total fucking like just all it's hard to put into words, but when I heard the end of this, it's like, that's Prince, and I love that.
It's a great song,
very sexy song. Like I said, very crassly song to fuck to, very sexy song, and I love the concept behind it as well. Man of the People.
Oh yeah,
I mean, I'm interested to get your thoughts on this. Actually, I'm interested to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I like it. I like how it changes the energy from the album. I think it makes sense following after Eminent Sleaze. There's a comparison to there's an ambient band called Fortets, and there's one song that's called 2017 from their album New Energy, which came out that year. And it's definitely that kind of ambient noise that he uses. And I also like the concept behind the track as well, because I've actually heard him talk about it, and the premise is it's about the person that stands behind a public figure that is going through a sex scandal.
Yeah.
Maybe
I saw that. I saw an interview with Stephen when he was talking about like you said, the point behind the song, and because this was recorded during the Trump era, and also the rise of like in our country, Boris Johnson. I can't help but wonder if it's like, is that person inspired by Melania Trump or Carrie Simmons, Boris Johnson's fiance, or is it just a generalized caricature of that?
I think it's from a number of examples of that happening. Him seeing it on the news and then seeing that family member that's like forced to stand behind them when they give a kind of a speech to try and redeem their own credibility. And apparently, it was almost like the pity he felt for these people that are forced to be in the situation who had like no say in it. But you
see, that makes me think more Melania Trump.
Oh yeah,
the way you described it.
Yeah, the gold digger that was too deep. It definitely reminds me of some Porcupine Tree albums like Light Bulb Sun and Stupid Dream in terms of the tone that it's going for. And it's definitely some deep-rooted Wilson classic go-to things he does. I like the introduction with the sound of the streets that starts off this really ambient kind of like almost like a rain on a dark street. Like he's really good at building imagery from.
He did that a lot in Hand Cannot Erase as well, right?
He did, yeah.
Like the opening track and the closing track, you could hear the kids playing in the playground and just the ambient noise. And
but that was all about reminiscing, wasn't it? In a way.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about Personal Shopper because I think we've both agreed that this is the crown jewel of the album.
Or the was like probably the first song that made this album the way it was.
Yeah, I was surprised this was released. Okay, so we knew the album was going to be delayed, and then he threw this out one day, and then I was like, "Oh, this is nice."
And it's a long song as well. Is it 9 minutes?
It's 9 minutes 49. I told you, Chloe, my partner, she doesn't really like Stephen Wilson that much, but when I put this song on, she was like, "Oh, this sounds really good." And then she listens to the whole thing, and I was like, "Yeah, it's 9 minute 49." And she was like, "It doesn't feel like that. Like it's a stormer of a track." Also, I know I've kind of said this to you before, but little bit of a confession. When the album came out, I knew Elton John had guested on the album, and you know this story, but I think everyone else should
all
hear
too
it.
well.
But I was a bit embarrassed after a while because it was like, "Oh, Elton John's on the album." So I listened to the whole album throughout. Bearing in mind that I've been listening to Personal Shopper for like 6 months plus because it was released as the first track. And he was like, "So where's Elton John on this album? I can't hear his vocals on this album." And then I found out after the album was released that he's doing the products in the middle, the voiceover. I'd never heard Elton John's speaking voice before, so I was like, when I found out, I was like, "Oh, you absolute Wally!"
It's very deliberately monotone as well. There's no emotion to it, and I think that also is like hard to understand it being Elton because he's very expressive.
Well, yeah, I love that. I love the story about how they got that to happen as well, because I mean, the whole track is about. I initially thought the track was like a bit of a thing, 2 fingers up towards consumerism, but in Stephen's interviews, he was talking about how like, no, I consume, I love consuming. I initially thought it was against that, and when he's talking about 180 gram vinyl reissues, I thought that was a bit tongue in cheek, but he was like, "No, it's a love letter to consumerism, and I do that." And it's like, what better person to guest on that song than Elton John, who is like, he loves shopping, loves buying shit left, right, and center.
Yeah, he managed to kick all his addictions except one, shopping.
Yeah, and
I think there's a kind of a self-awareness to it, though. I think it's more a warning. And as great as consuming can be, it can be a bit soul-destroying, or like how far can it go before it's too much?
Oh, yeah. What was I going to say? It's it kind of. I know Stephen said this in his interviews, but it kind of parodies that corporate design that you get from Apple or Supreme or Google, even like it parodies that corporate design. It's when he says he wanted to make an album very much for the now. It is parodying that, like outside of the album, like the Future Bites, he's taken it very multimedia with the online stuff that he's put out. It's like he put out like a VR thing where you can walk through the shop, or if you look at the personal shopper video, it when they get to the Future Bite store, it's almost like they're worshipping it.
Oh yeah, like shrines.
Yeah.
There's also lines like "buy it green, buying blue, buying patterns because I tell you to." Like there is a very manipulative way of getting people so on board. It's like, I have to have that now. It's and like also, my collection is not complete without the blue.
And also in addition to that, it's like sell it on, then buy it back, buy the shit you never knew you lacked. It just appeals to that. I mean, we've all got Amazon. We all like buying records. Like, we buy records. We all collect books. We all collect all this stuff. It makes us very happy inside. But
we love it when we see them all on the shelf.
Just dude. Yeah, like it's especially if you collect things like records and whatnot.
Oh yeah, you love to see it grow.
You just love, exactly. It's great, but it does also have that darker element to it.
Yeah. It's like, do you own these products, or do these products own you?
You put it better than I did, actually. Follower, second to last track.
Oh, okay. I'll flip the page.
What do you reckon?
I love this one. I was really proud because I thought a really good song to compare it to was 9 Inch Nails' "The Collector" from With Teeth. And I do think there is a bit of a 9 Inch Nails energy in terms of like the distorted guitars and things like that. And I was very proud of that.
I get what you're talking about. I'd say lyrically, that's definitely the case.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
In terms of feel of the song, I mean, I'm just speaking from a drummer's perspective, so I would say it's a little bit punky.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's definitely an attitude towards it, and also it's basically the song is about the internet. When you got a line like "the bull with the red rag," that's just trolling. That's trolling 101.
Yeah, it's very much about that sort of social media influencer culture, right?
Yeah, like the aggressive tendencies of things like Twitter, where everyone's shouting at once.
Yeah, it's I think it's the final verse that I find two verses or verse that I really like. It's like, do I want to be fucked like you are? Do I want to have a body like yours now? And then, do I want to have friends like you have? Do I want to have a life like you do? It's that whole culture of, you're scrolling through Instagram or Twitter or whatever social media platform you love. And there's these people that you kind of look up to in a way. And they present this idealistic view of a lifestyle you could have. And you're scrolling through, in your shitty 1-bedroom apartment, and you're like, oh, I want that. And I think this song for me certainly embodies that whole influencer lifestyle.
Absolutely. I like lines like "too much everything." I definitely think it's like, can we handle the internet? Because it's just a barrage of information and communication. And I think sometimes it can be a bit too much. Hence why people have like breaks.
But that's the way he pushes back on that, right? Like, it's all right making a song about, influencer culture and social media culture and stuff like that, but he does kind of push back in that way by coming out with those lyrics.
Oh yeah, it definitely feels like it definitely gets the tone right. It doesn't feel patronizing in any way. It doesn't feel like here's an old man complaining
exciting
about change.
It feels exciting, and like that whole influencer Instagram thing, it all feels exciting to have that sort of lifestyle.
Unstoppable.
You look at people like the Jake Paul and people like that. Like, it all feels really exciting, and they got loads of money, and everyone's having fun all the time.
Yeah.
I think like you just said, like the feel of the song reflects that. Um, I kind of wish it was the last song on the album, actually,
Uh,
because you know me, I like the big album finishes.
yeah, it
That's
does.
my
It does
thing.
has a bit of a crescendo sound
Yeah,
to it. I like the placement of it. I loved it following Personal Shopper in
yeah,
terms of I think they marry each other really well in terms of like
yeah.
flying from song to song.
Hmm.
But you know, great song,
Which I think it brings us on to the final track, "Count of Unease."
which is aptly
Um,
named.
I mean, so I know Steven said that initially there was a different track in this place. I would be interested to find out what that track is.
Yeah, I
I
imagine he'll
initially
show it.
initially I didn't like this song. I've got to admit, but it was a bit of a grower, not a shower. You know, like it grew on me. But I'm intrigued to find out what the other track would have been.
Yeah, I have two minds of it. I love the tone. I love the mood. The instruments with that piano. It's really haunting.
Mm.
Wilson's really good at building sound, but I can't help but feel wanting a little bit more for when that track finally ends and the album's now over. But that could be by design, in a way.
Yeah, I know he said Steven said in an interview, like, I mean, the track the album is like 41 minutes 59, and he was talking about how, you know, people's attention spans only last so long when they're listening to music. So I guess some of it's by design. I kind of like that, but this song left me feeling like I wanted more.
I was trying to think of something to compare it to, and we saw them live when they supported him, the band Caspian. They have a song called Circles on Circles,
Oh
which
yeah.
was their last track from their last album, On Circles, which came out in 2020. And that has a kind of same energy and vibe to it. I do think it's a good way to bring down from an energetic song like Follower. So in a way, there's logic to the choice. But yeah, I do wish there was something else because the ending is very abrupt. You feel the album end in a way.
Well, I mean, you're the guy who got the deluxe edition box set, and you can listen to all the B sides and instrumentals and
And demos, there's some
other
great
great
demos as
things.
well that never made.
So, speaking as someone who doesn't own that, I think you're set.
Oh yeah. There's lots of more. There's lots of stuff I still haven't listened to. There's some great extended versions of songs. There's a 20-minute version of Personal Shopper. There's a really good extended version of Eminent Sleaze, which has got more sexy bass line, which I recommend everyone should look up because it's great.
Nice.
The introduction is a lot longer. But I think
I will have to give that a listen.
But yeah, looking back at the whole album in its entirety, I really like it. I think it's a great. I think
I give this album a 10 out of 10 for sure. I have at times struggled to get into Stephen Wilson's solos. But this is an album that I can listen to on repeat all day, every day. I think it's worth mentioning as well that the £10,000 Ultra Deluxe Edition box set, it was a one of one version.
the one
had
we all
lots of stuff.
craved.
There's a chap called Alan Lastufko. Bought it for £10,000. The proceeds went to music venues in the UK during the pandemic. There was one song on there that would never be released outside of that one little set. I think it was
Yeah, it was a
7-inch
7-inch one-sided disc.
It's called The Tastemaker. Alan actually decided to share it with the world, which was ace. He made his own music video to it, which was ace. I mean, if you're ever listening to this, Alan, thank you so much for that. It is a very kind thing for you to do. I guess we should try and wrap up, and I guess just ask, like, what do we think's next for Stephen Wilson?
Well, I thought this was a very logical step in his career, and I'd love to see where he decides to go with it next, because I think he clearly enjoyed making it, and he made a lot of stuff and recorded lots more stuff we never heard. And I think it'd be great to. He keeps that energy, he keeps that attitude going, and yeah, I think he'll be sorted. I think the next studio album, I can't wait to see what he comes up with next. And
I think with Stephen Wilson, you can never guess what he's doing next.
No, but he's not going to stop. He's not
going to stop, and it's going to be good.
Oh yeah. But I know the fact he's recording 2 studio albums now, thanks to his tour that was be based on this album got cancelled due to the pandemic. Yeah. So those are going to be some treats. He's also working on
the I don't know if you call it an autobiography. I don't know if he's writing it himself, but he's working on.
He has mentioned he's doing a book, which I look forward to as well.
Which I'm certainly excited for, because I know he's always been a not necessarily like private person, but more of a guarded person.
Oh yeah.
I'd be intrigued in reading a lot more about his life that, is not public record. But I guess as the last part of the show today, we're going to do what we call album challenge. So the idea behind this is that I challenge Ed to listen to something. He will challenge me. The next episode of our podcast is going to be an album challenge where I go away and have listened to his challenge. He's listened to mine, and we'll come back and review it. It might be something that's really jokey, might be something we think we'd actually genuinely like. It cannot be an album that we both like, because that's not really a challenge. So, Ed, what are you going to challenge me to listen to?
Well, I thought about this, and I'm going to pick one of my favorite albums, which is also one of Wilson's favorite albums, because he did a nice studio mix of it. And that's Tears for Fears, Songs from the Big Chair, a classic 80s pop record that everyone needs to know. Everyone needs to listen to it, because it's phenomenal. The sound, the way it's recorded, it's really clever. It's something that Wilson loves, because he's taken it apart and he's heard like it at its bare bones, and he raves about it a lot. So I recommend listening to that.
Okay. So for anyone who's not watching this on YouTube, I'll put it on the video for YouTube, but I like Royal Blood, and they came out with their 3rd studio album Typhoons recently, and I put on Twitter something to the effect of, that new Royal Blood album's a really good stormer, isn't it? And then Ed just commented with no. So I'm challenging you to listen to Royal Blood's new album Typhoons. Well, and I think you'd actually like it.
I like the first 2 of their albums, and I've only heard the title track, which didn't win me over. But maybe if I listen to it in the context of the whole record, we'll see. I'll tell you all about it.
Okay. Well, you guys have been listening to LPs in a Pod. This has been the album review for the Future Bites. I've been Val.
I've been Eddie.
And thank you so much for tuning in. You can follow us on Twitter at LPs in a Pod. That's LPSINAPOD. You can also follow us on Instagram. And we will be putting out podcasts on Apple Music, Spotify Music, anywhere that you can get podcasts from, and YouTube. Really appreciate your support. Please give us a like and a subscribe. And it's been really good.
It's been fun.
It's been really good. It's been really fun. I've actually really enjoyed this.
Yeah, we almost sound competent at this.
You guys take care and stay safe out there. Good. Dude.